Hi, writers. Welcome to Writers Workshop. Hopefully you have everything and are ready to go. So what you need to put in your mind as we talked about this for any of our writing projects, you need to think about where you are in the process. Do you have a thesis and at least two reasons? If so, then you're ready to move on to start collecting evidence. Did you write a micro story yesterday for one of your reasons, like we did in our lesson? Did you do something similar to that? All right. Fabulous. So if you did a micro story, then this mini lesson is going to help that micro story. If you are not at the micro story yet, you're going to want to remember and you're going to want to pay attention to this mini lesson because this will help you when you get to that step. All right, so when we start writing, I kind of think about it as maybe I used to run track, like a track race. We all start right at the same starting line, right? But once we hear the sound or the gun go off that it's time to start the race, everybody starts spreading out into different spots. We kind of all move at a different pace. We're all going to get to the finish line together, but it's just how we get there might be a little more quickly for some than it is for others. So the important thing to remember as a writer, no matter where you are, that you always are keeping in mind of what your next step needs to be. And we have kind of a mini lesson that we all join in together just to hear these next steps, but it's up to you to think about where you are and make the most use out of your independent writing time and conference time with your teacher. Okay? All right. So thinking that when you create your mini story, or if you have created your mini story, I did the example yesterday from the book Fox. So if you remember, Fox, I'm thinking is a good friend. That's what I think about that character. And I think he's a good friend because he sees the good in people. So this is one of my reasons, and here's my folder. And yesterday I thought, well, I'm going to add a little micro story. Actually, I kind of came up with a couple. And I wrote down what I thought in kind of more like a story form of how he's showing that he sees the good in people. Especially when that sneaky little fox was by him. Dog did seem like he was trying to see the best in Fox. Okay, so I have written those couple of micro stories. And one way to make this better is to really kind of show your reader, to tell your reader what you want to show before you start that story or while you're starting that story. And we can use some transitional prompts for that. So here are just a few prompts, and these are not the only ones that you would use. You might come up with some other ones. But I really want you to pause the video today. I want you to get out your writer's notebook. Oh, mine's down here. I want you to go to the part of your writer's notebook. Where do you keep these charts? Are they in the front or the back? Do you know where you keep these charts? If you haven't thought about that, maybe make a space today. So I'm going to go to my charts area here. I'm going to put these towards the back of my writer's notebook, and I want to write down this chart. Okay, so you want to pause the video and make sure that you get these prompts written down. So when you want to give an example, or when you want to include like a little micro story, things that are happening in the text that support your opinion, here are some prompts to use. An example that shows this shows that, for instance, one time, or this is evidence that, okay? And I can use these before I start talking about the examples from the text. Remember, I'm trying to always connect back to my reason, back to my thesis, what my opinion is about the character. Okay, so again, write this chart down. So go ahead and pause the video before you move on. Okay, Now that you have that chart written down, I am just going to pull up that literary essay that a student wrote from the story 11 about the character Rachel. So if you remember that story, it was Rachel's birthday, and she had a lot of deep thoughts about what it meant to have a birthday, and her day wasn't quite going as planned. So let me zoom out here. Okay. So in this essay, what a good writer does is look back at other examples. So I was thinking, I'm trying to figure out these prompts to add into my micro stories. And I want to find an example of these prompts in an essay. If I look at the second paragraph here, I put a couple of stars because I can see that the writer decided to use those prompts. Remember, this essay is about, I think the story is about a girl who struggles to hold on to herself when she is challenged by people who have power over her. So this student was writing about the character Rachel and thinking that she has a trouble when people seem to have power over her. She gave an example of Mrs. Price, her teacher, having power over her, trying to force her to wear that horrid red sweater. And I'm going to just kind of start in the middle here. In my head, I'm thinking, how long till lunchtime? How long until I can take the red sweater and throw it over the schoolyard fence, or leave it hanging on a parking meter, or bunch it up into a little ball and toss it over the alley? This shows that Rachel loses herself because she's not listening to her teacher. She's dreaming about a whole other place. What prompt did this student use? Give me a thumbs up when you got it. What prompt did this student use? All right, if you said this shows that, you're correct. So the writer is telling me what I need to be understanding. This shows that evidence shows that Rachel does lose herself, starts daydreaming when the teacher is getting upset with her. It is also important to see that Rachel has all this good thinking about the sweater, but when she wants to say the sweater isn't hers, she squeaks and stammers, unable to speak. What is the other prompt that the student used? Give me a thumbs up when you got it. If you said it is also important, you are correct. Now, that might be one that you might want to also add to your chart because that is one that we don't have. That would be an example though. Just kind of leading us to show the reader, leading us to understand why the opinion about the character is important. All right, and then so what I'm going to do is I need to look at my micro stories that I wrote yesterday, and I am going to look back at that chart and decide, which one or which ones can I try to add in today? And it could be as simple as, let's see, dog is a kind of character that sees the best in others. For example, one day a fox came into the bush where Dog and Magpie lived. Fox moves through the trees sneakily like a tongue of fire. Magpie trembles at the sight of him, but Dog doesn't see the bad in Fox. I think I could say this shows that. So I'm going to try to add that one in today. This shows that Dog. What do you think I should put? This shows that Dog, what do I want to say? I feel like this shows that Dog is caring because, or it sees the good in people because even though Magpie is scared of Fox, Dog is really trying to give Fox a chance. So that's kind of long since I'm going to have to squeeze that in there. I could even take a Post-it note, which I don't have right next to me, and add that sentence and stick it on that paper. Remember, your planning stage, you're allowed to be a little bit messy. And I could look down here too and see, is there any prompts that I could add in there? So remember, guys, when you are adding in a micro story, you want to make sure that your reader understands why that story is there, how it supports your thinking. Great work today, and let's move on to our independent writing.